Hi everyone! So recently I finished reading a book, and that book is The Maze Runner. So I'm going to just do kind of a review and what my thoughts are about this book, and I'll get into some spoilers, so just keep that in mind. So I actually finished this book rather quickly. Well, kind of quickly. I finished it in like 3 days. And just some background information about this book. It starts out this boy named Thomas. You find out his name within the first like 3 pages, I think. This boy named Thomas, he's in this box, and that's where the book starts. He's in this box, and it's being raised up. He's being carried up. And once he reaches the top, these doors kind of open, and he sees a bunch of boys just staring at him. And that's like the opening chapter. And you soon figure out that all these boys... Oh, and by the way, Thomas does not remember anything. His memory is completely wiped. The only thing he does remember is his name. He doesn't remember his family. He doesn't remember anything before he went into this world. And he's just like completely lost. And so after he gets pulled out of the box, he soon figures out that he is in what's called the Glade. And it's basically a big box where all these boys live. And the Glade is the center of a maze. And it's like the center, and then the maze is around it. And you find out that there are a bunch of roles throughout the facility, the Glade, I guess, that each person is assigned to do, like cooking, and there's cleaning, there's they've like farmers and all that kind of stuff to make food and stuff, and then there's also what are called the runners. And the whole goal of these people, the Gladers, is to get out of the maze. And so the runners are the people that go around the maze and look for an exit. And the maze is kind of guarded by these terrible creatures called the grievers. And the grievers, they sting you, and sometimes they eat you too. So it's kind of like the labyrinth, I guess, that kind of thing. So the grievers are the animals that go throughout the maze and kind of attack people. And so that's the general background. I don't really want to give anything else away just because spoilers are going to be coming up. But I thought this book was really predictable. And some parts, I don't know, I almost thought it was like repetitive too. And so this was not one of my favorite books. It didn't really have a wow factor for me, but that may be because I predicted the climax early on. So, and I'll get into that more in the spoilers section. So honestly, I would only rate this book a 3 out of 5. I hate saying that just because I know it is a book that's like really hyped and it's very popular, but it was not one of my favorite books that I've ever read. I talked to my sister, though, and she said the second book is supposed to be a lot better. That's what her opinion was, at least. So we'll see. But I'm only rating this book a 3 out of 5. And I'll go a little bit more into why and the spoilers. So if you want... I do recommend this book if you are just looking for an easy read and just something to fill your time. I heard the rest of the series is really good. Maybe it was just this first book where I was like, eh. So, that's my rating. That's my opinions and stuff. But, if you don't want to hear any spoilers, I suggest you turn off the camera because I'm about to go into that, especially right at the beginning. So, if you don't want any spoilers, just turn off your camera and go ahead and read the book and tell me what your opinions are. But if you have read the book or you just want to know more about the book, I'm going to tell and talk about some of the main plot things in it. So, yeah, just turn off your camera or keep watching. Okay, so first things first. The reason why I thought it was very predictable was because I guessed the climax within the first 5 to 10 chapters. And you don't find this till near the end of the book, but it's an experiment. The maze is an experiment. And I just got done reading the Divergent series, and so if you haven't read Divergent, close your ears real quick. But the Divergent series, you find out Chicago is an experiment as well. And so after reading Divergent and then coming and reading this book, and it's a maze, and just kind of like clicked with me immediately, this is an experiment. Especially when they talk about the little, what are they called? The bead beetles or something like that, that have little cameras that say Wicked on them, and they look like little lizards or whatever. After hearing about those and then in reading Divergent, immediately I was like, this is an experiment. They're being watched, and in the end of the book, they're going to get out of the maze and meet their creators, as they call them. And so it was just so predictable for me. And so I think that's what really took out of the excitement for this book. It's like, I felt like I knew what was going to happen. It's exactly what did happen. So it kind of took away from the book for me, knowing, just predicting it immediately and then watching it play out that way. So I think that's a big reason why I only rated this book a 3 out of 5, just because of me guessing what was going to happen in the end, and then it ended up happening in the end. There were only a few things that really kind of jazzed it up a bit for me, and one of those was the girl. And I did not see that one coming, the girl coming up in the box after Thomas came up the day after. And so that was a bit of shock to me, a little bit. And then her, like, dooming message or whatever. So you knew immediately that sooner or later, more sooner than later, that they're going to have to figure out how to get out of the maze, otherwise they're going to die. And that's exactly what happened. But one of the things, I think the other thing that really just, I don't know, I was frustrated throughout the whole book because Thomas was always kept in the dark. And so you were always kept in the dark and you didn't know any information. And sometimes that can be, it can intensify a book and make it really good. But in this case, for me, I just found it annoying. Like, every single time Thomas would ask even a small question, he'd get shut out immediately. No, we can't tell you. And so, seriously, I felt like it went like that for over half the book. And so, soon I was just tired of not getting any answers, and Thomas was tired of not getting any answers either. And so, the author did a really good job of showing that frustration. But for me, it was it had a negative effect on me reading rather than on the edge kind of thing. It was more of just annoying to me. So Teresa, the girl, comes, and she spices things up a bit. She brings her message, and she ends up being a very good asset to the people in the maze. And so that was one thing that I thought was very positive about the book, having a girl come with all the rest of them being boys, and they're just like, whoa, we don't know what to do with her. We don't know what she means by she triggered the ending and all that kind of stuff. But I thought it was kind of interesting how the author let Teresa and Thomas talk to each other, like, telepathically. That was interesting too, especially after they get out of the maze, they can still talk like that. And so I think that will be a big thing in the future books. So near the end, when they solve the maze, first off, the way that the author did the maze of it, like, the walls changing and creating a pattern, I thought was clever. I did like that. It was a nice touch. But then the battle at the end. So when Thomas went through the changing, it kind of clicked and everything went together, and they knew what they had to do to get out of the maze and stuff. And that was good. I kind of knew after the beginning of the book. I hate saying that, but I thought this book was very predictable, at least for me. Probably not for others, but for me it was. And after Thomas seeing the person at the beginning going through the changing and thinking, oh, this is horrible, it's kind of like, he's going to go through the changing at some point in this book. You know he is. And so, but the author did it in a way that was beneficial for the characters. And so he went through the changing, and they got information that they needed to know to get out of the maze, and they used that information, and I call it like the final battle against the grievers, where they knew they had to go through the griever hole to get in to turn off the maze. And so they were hoping that only one person would die, but it became very obvious that more people were going to die. And finally, when they switched off the switch and everyone else poured through, it was really sad to see so many of them passed away during the battle and stuff. But after that, and they go through the trapdoor and stuff, and they meet their creators. In the part at the end where Gally throws a knife or something like that, I thought that was very dramatic. It's like, oh, well, this is interesting. I don't know how he survived or anything like that, but I guess this works. So I think it was almost cheesy. Oh, I hate saying that because this book is praised, and it's actually being read at my school for one of our English classes now. So I don't know, but it was cheesy to me, oh, Gally's back. How the heck did you survive? You got ate by a griever. We saw him getting carried away. But now he's going to throw a knife at someone. Okay. So it was just that last thing, ooh, okay. But I did not predict that team busting into the creator's lab, or whatever you want to call it, and them busting all of the people out, all of the gladers out. I did not see that coming, and it was that bit was a kind of a surprise. It happened so fast though, the end of the book happened so fast, and I really wish that part had been more spread out than the rest of the book, because most of the book is in the glade and they're just waiting for something to happen, and I wish that it would have been more spread out. So after they get broken out and they get on the bus and they start to go to wherever they're going, and you're like, oh geez, you hear about the sick people and all that kind of stuff, and they have pussy faces, and you can tell they're really sick and they're starving, and they're just brought into this chaotic world. And so you think that they got rescued, but if you read the epilogue, always read the epilogue, because there's important information there that you may need for the next book. And in this case, yes, very important information. So I did not predict this at all. You find out that the people that rescued them were not actually rescuers. It was just a show to kind of shell shock them. And so, for the next book, it said something about trial 1 has been completed. We're happy that we got so many people out of the maze, or so many people in the maze survived. Trial 2 will begin, which is obviously the second book, the Sorch Trials. So, I did not predict that whatsoever, and I'm really interested in how the second book is going to come out. And there's something else I caught was, it said Group A. So the Gladers were obviously Group A. And it said something about Group B too. So I think there is a second group that had to do something similar to what the Gladers went through. And I have a feeling, because it said that Group B went just as well. And so obviously Group B made it out of their maze or whatever their situation was. And I have a feeling Group A, the Gladers, and whoever Group B is going to meet up sometime in the second book. Whether it's going to be a good or bad way, I have no idea. But I'm excited to read the second book. Actually, I'll probably have started the second book before I put this up on YouTube. But yeah, I liked the ending. I really did like the ending. So overall, I did rate this a 3 out of 5. I have high hopes for the second book, though. I normally don't rate books that low, 3 out of 5, but I have high hopes for the second book because my sister said the first book, The Maze Runner, was kind of background information, just like going through it all or whatever. And she said the second book had a lot more action in it, and that's what I like. So, I am excited to read the second book, and I'll probably post a book review of the Sorch Trials also. If you liked this book review, give it a thumbs up. You can comment or whatever. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!